I'll wait for a few more people to join, and then I think I'll get this started. And just let me know if you cannot hear me. Let me get that down. And I'll just check it's streaming to all platforms, and then I'll get started. Okay. Looks like it's streaming to some platforms now. I'll get started and just cycle through this a couple of times, but I'm here today at the Olkiluoto nuclear power plant here in Finland. Behind me, the 3 units there are producing around 30% of Finland's electricity, and it's just an excellent example of how nuclear power is so essential to many countries around the world, particularly here in Europe, where nuclear is having a real resurgence at the moment. The other really interesting thing about this site where I am is it's going to be home to the world's first deep geological repository. It's currently in testing, and what that means is that they'll have a long-term solution for spent fuel, high-level radioactive waste here in Finland. All of the spent fuel will be able to be managed from those 3 reactors behind me here at the Olkiluoto nuclear power plant. So for all of those who have just joined, I'm here today. I've been on a trip to Europe, and currently I'm in Finland at the Olkiluoto nuclear power plant on, I guess you'd describe it, the southwestern coast of Finland, opposite Helsinki. And behind me, you can see through the trees 3 units here. You've got Unit 3, the most recent one, the EPR, which has got a lot going for it. And then you've got the older reactors. I think they're now 40 years old. Units 1 and 2 there. And behind me, collectively, those 3 reactors provide around 30% of Finland's electricity. So nuclear is making a huge contribution here. In addition, in Finland, there's 2 other reactors closer to Helsinki on the other side of the coast, which provide, I think, around another 10%. They're Russian designed, but nuclear is making a really big contribution to Finland's clean energy journey here. But I think one of the most interesting things about this location where I am here today at Olkiluoto is, a few hundred meters down the road is going to be the first deep geological repository for high-level radioactive waste or spent fuel, which basically means Finland has found the solution, the long-term solution for high-level radioactive waste management, which is a big thing. And in the coming months, should be coming months or so. Currently, they're in testing. It should be ready, and they should be taking the spent fuel, which is currently being stored in one of the buildings behind me, and they'll be taking it in canisters. They'll be taking it in the larger canisters they've got, which are currently in the spent fuel pools, and they'll be trucking it over to the new location to be finally buried deep underground so it's a generational impact that they're having. Great to hear, Tyrone. You'll be here next month. It's really excellent, and I think at some point during this live stream I'll have to go inside the museum because I've heard that's really good, and they've got an example of what these canisters look like. But it's really quite scenic here in summer. Throughout the rest of my trip, I've had the opportunity to go to a conference with the Australian British Chamber of Commerce. Australian British Chamber of Commerce, where there was a bit of a energy catalyst, where they're exchanging ideas about Australia's energy transition, some of the obvious hurdles, but also some of the opportunities. Nuclear was discussed at the end, and that's, I guess, where I came in. And then at the end, we got to visit Sizewell C. And then excitingly for me, I then went over to Sizewell B, which is, one of the UK's nuclear power plants, and I got to see the spent fuel pool, which was really cool. On this tour, I'm obviously getting a lot of social media content, so there'll be a real pipeline to get through. But taking lots of photos, we'll be able to see the intermediate and low-level waste repositories here, and apparently allowed to film that and get some content of that, which will be very exciting. There'll be a bit of a bus tour, apparently you can't film, but I think this probably gives a really good perspective of what's happening here. I think the other thing that's really interesting is just how transparent they are here at Olkiluoto. Currently, they've got a tour which is on today, which I've joined, and there's 82 people here, which I think's a huge testament to the interest here locally. It's clear there's a lot of support the nuclear literacy here was really high. And I think that's, really, really interesting. So yeah, I might head into the museum in a second and show you around. Do you see any directional ideas for us in Oz? Well, I think, being here in a country like Finland, like I said, 30% of Finland's power is literally from those, or approximately 30% is from those 3 units back there. It really just goes to show, I guess, how behind Australia is. Also, noting how Finland's pioneering with the radioactive waste storage. I think the biggest lesson I'm currently getting here from the few hours of being here so far is that transparency is, I think, really important for increasing social license and boosting public awareness. And I think there's been some excellent examples just here at this visitor centre of what they're doing. They had an excellent demonstration just then with a guy who had actually worked in units 1 and 2 and was able to answer everyone's questions about the facility here, and I think that was really encouraging. And also they've got a great museum and stuff telling people stories about nuclear power and the physics and everything behind it. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, because ultimately we're really at square one. Well, not in many respects, Australia's got a bit of a head start with our involvement with AUKUS and our research reactor and all that's going on, and our wonderful nuclear experts in Australia. But I guess policy-wise for civil nuclear, we obviously need to lift the ban first. And I think in order to do that, we need to convince politicians that there is public support. And hopefully Nuclear for Australia recently has made a big impact in that and boosting public awareness. But I think there's some good lessons here about how to further improve that. So for everyone joining, I'm going to hop into the museum in a moment. And that's where I'll go through and show the different things on offer there. But I'll just, before I do that, just one more time for everyone else who's just joined benefit. Behind me is Olkiluoto, the nuclear power plant. You can see units 1 and 2, they're more traditional. I think Swedish designed. They're around 40 years old, but they've actually been upgraded and stuff. And I think they're looking to keep them operational for over 60 years. And then you've got recently built Olkiluoto Unit 3, the European Pressurised Water Reactor, or EPR for short, 1.6 gigawatts, so really huge. And actually when that was turned online, I'm pretty sure, there's a massive drop in power prices and stuff here. So this has made a huge contribution to Finland, their clean power mission. And I think it's, excellent example. But also what's really cool here is how they've found the final solution, I guess, for spent nuclear waste and deep geological repository they're building. Now, I'm going to take you inside the museum, and hopefully the Wi-Fi connection's still stable, because they've got this excellent visitor centre. I'll just be careful not to disturb anyone. But I haven't had a look at this, but it's been, I guess it's been featured a lot on social media, and it's gone quite viral in many respects. So I'll be walking around this first time for myself. I guess here you can see they've got in the visitor centre at Olkiluoto a replica fuel assembly, which is pretty cool, and you can see the fuel rods there where the pellets would go. So this is very, very, very cool. I'll keep on going through. You can see here they've got a bit of a demonstration of what a reactor, and let me know in the comments if you can't hear me anymore, but they've got a bit of a demonstration of what I guess a reactor looks like in real life, which is pretty cool, and you can light up the different sections of it. So obviously all of the fuel assemblies go in there. It's very, very cool. Sorry if I'm rushing through. We've got to go on a bus tour shortly, and unfortunately I won't be able to film that. I'm not sure what this is, but it's a bit of a, I'm trying to find, oh, this is cool. So in here I think this is a demonstration of what it would be like if you were inside a reactor. And this is based on, as you can see, Unit 3, the European Pressurised Water. And I guess here where you'd find the fuel assemblies, because you can find some replicas here. So it's quite cool. I think it's, you'd have over 100 fuel assemblies at one time inside the reactor, and you can sort of see for scale what we're talking about with this demonstration. I recently, when I was at Hinkley Point C, which is also an EPR, this video is on Nuclear for Australia's social media pages, the benefit of seeing the reactor just being installed and, standing, a few meters away from it. And it's really interesting to be able to see the scale of it. Because keep in mind, this reactor is producing it's got a capacity of 1.6 gigawatts, which is just huge. Okay, I think I'm back. Sorry if I lost anyone. I think the Wi-Fi just cut out. I think that's actually a live feed of the control room in there, which is pretty cool. And you can see a bit of an example of what a control room would look like. As you see from outside, I think probably lost the Wi-Fi connection inside the example reactor, but you can see the scale of it, which is pretty cool. I think this is just all dedicated to I think, really interesting part. And sorry for rushing through. I just feel like in the time I've got available, it would be good to show everyone. No, the connection's back. I think it's just chopping in and out. Whilst I'm here, it's very, very hard to get here in Finland. So I just wanted to be able to give everyone the opportunity to see it. I realised apologies if there's a bit of noise, but I think the really interesting thing about a spent fuel pool, and I'll have a post on my personal social medias coming out shortly, is the effect of the water shielding. And I got to see the spent fuel pool at Sizewell B, and it was just awesome to be able to literally stand meters above the high level radioactive waste spent fuel and be safe. I walked out with a Geiger counter reading of 0 microsieverts, so really negligible. I think it would be less than banana, I'm told, in terms of radiation I was exposed to, literally just standing above hot, highly radioactive nuclear waste. But this is sort of an example of what it looks like. Here in Finland, it basically comes out of the reactor, stays here for a few years, then goes to an intermediate facility or temporary facility, and then it will head into their deep geological repository. And I guess to finalise the live stream, and thank you all for joining, I wanted to sort of tell the story of what's happening at the final repository called Olkiluoto here, which is basically a final solution for nuclear waste, I guess, the spent fuel, high-level radioactive waste. I'm going to try and see if there's a diagram. This, I think, a few people might have seen this on social media, but it's a bit of an example of what's going to be happening here. Hopefully the Wi-Fi connection doesn't cut out, but what they've got here is the canister, which basically the fuel assemblies that I showed earlier are going to be placed in, and then they'll be placed in like this. Sorry, I don't remember the materials off the top of my head, but you can see the replica fuel assembly here. It'll be placed in this here, and there can be multiple placed. It will then be that big thing there with the fuel assemblies will then go into the copper canister. Apparently, I'm allowed to, go in here, and you can see that's where all of the fuel assemblies will go. That will then be sealed, welded shut, and then we come over here, and okay, I'm going to have to go off memory of seeing people do this on social media. It's all in Finnish, so I don't really understand what it means. But to finish off the live stream, I'll quickly show you. So we've got this here, this metallic looking thing, and we put the fuel assemblies. How do I get these in? And you just put the fuel assemblies in like this. After that, I'm pretty sure I'm just going off my memory. It slots into the copper. You then, I think, I think I'm probably forgetting, I'm not really doing it in the right order. I've only just come in here. You put the copper back on top. I hope there's no nuclear engineers or whatever watching me cringing at this. And then after that, this will go into here. Does these? Oh, I was meant to, sorry, this is a terrible live demonstration. I think then that you then take these blocks, stack them in, whatever, seal it shut, seal, and then to sort of give that broader context of what they're doing here, I've just found this excellent, excellent, I guess, example of what the tunnels will look like. And you can see each of those there are where the individual canisters would go. So I think they've got around 5 tunnels at the moment they're testing, and they'll just keep on creating new tunnels, I guess, as they go. So very, very exciting times here. I'll have to get someone to teach me how to do that, and that demonstration of packaging the fuel assemblies, and I'm sure I'll post that on my social media once I'm trained. But that's sort of, I hope, a very quick run through of what's going on here at the museum. But if you're ever in Finland, not that I think Australians are often in Finland, this has really been an awesome opportunity, and thank you for your team at Olkiluoto, having me, and it's wonderful, I guess, to be able to worry about Finland using nuclear power for good, and hope to be able to share a lot more social media content whilst I'm here. So I'll wrap that up here, but real pleasure to be here and looking forward to coming back home and getting all the content prepared for everyone. It'll be out on Nuclear for Australia's pages or my own, so make sure to follow or sign up to our email database. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.